Well, I think I may have bitten off more than I can chew with this project. You ever see one of those projects online and you think, oh, I could easily do that? Well, it's not so easy, but I did give it a try. So I've been seeing all over Instagram and YouTube people making these folded journals out of these clear bags. I guess they're like pen holders or whatever. You can order them on Amazon. I can link it down below. But I thought it was so cool that you could just make like a journal cover out of this. And then it also has built in storage, and you can put all of your journaling items in here, like pens and whatever you use, if you use paints. But, it would be relatively inexpensive and you could carry all of your stuff with you. So I ordered some of these with the intent to make these journals and thinking, that'll be a piece of cake. But it wasn't really. And you'll see my process as I go along here. I'd like to put the zipper part in the front because I think it would be nice to add some charms to it later, but you can fold it either way. And as you can see, there's a white tag on the back, and I was going to cut it off, but I will show you what I do with it later. I brought out the ruler, which is very unusual for me. I really typically do not like to measure or do anything precisely, but I thought, okay, we can really give this a good professional try. And I try to use a little marker here to mark my spot to put in the grommets, but the marker didn't work, so I had to switch over to a gel pen. And I bought another important piece of equipment for this very project, which is called a crocodile. I don't know if you have ever heard of a crocodile, but that is what I saw people using online, and so I did get it. Although you could probably use any kind of grommet punch. I mark off 3 separate areas where I intend to put the grommets to loop the journal string through. And this part is relatively easy. It's a little bit bigger than an A5. Like an A5 is usually 8.5 by 5.5. And this is more like 9 by 6. This is the crocodile that I was talking about, and there are 2 different punches, and this is where I make my first big mistake. There's a 3/16 punch and a 1/8 punch, I think is the other one, and you can see one punch is way bigger than the other punch, and I really should have used the bigger hole punch for this project, but I didn't. I used the smaller punch. So I line it up here where I drew my marks for where I wanted to put the grommet in for the journal. And I insert the crocodile to make the hole. But this was entirely too small for the grommets that I ended up using. It does easily punch through the bag, so that's really not a problem. The problem is the grommet size, and I really don't realize that until I'm just about finished. So in order to make sure that the holes went all the way through, I use a very important tool called a shish kebab skewer. And I just make sure that the hole went all the way through. And I'm going to speed it up here because, as you can see, I'm just kind of repeating the same thing that I did above and making sure that the holes go all the way through. And then these are the grommets. I ordered this kit on Amazon, and I can link it below if you like. I chose black for this because black is my favorite color, and so I wanted to use my favorite color. And I pick a few of these out. And as you can see, my nails really aren't doing me any favors for this project, but I persist anyway. So I try to line up the crocodile and the grommet and put it in, but this is where things start to really get out of hand. The grommet keeps slipping, and so I use the shish kebab skewer again to try to sort of set it in there, and that helps. I was using these shish kebab skewers for another project where I was making like a giant wishing flower, and that turned out really cool, but I'm glad I had some of these left over with the tape on them so that I could use them for this project, which is why you should never throw anything away. A lesson that I learn over and over, even though I probably have too much stuff, but that's okay. So as you can see, I'm really trying to figure out why it's not going through the crocodile hole, and that is because I used the wrong size punch. I should have used a bigger one, but it's fine. We eventually get there. As you can see, I got the grommet through, I got it set, and it looks nice. I like the way that it turned out. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 more to go, and this really takes a great deal of time and effort. So I fast forward here so that you don't have to live through the torture that I lived through in trying to put all of these grommets through. And at first I thought it was a tool issue, but it really was a skill issue on my part. And I hope that you can learn from my mistakes and then you don't have to make the same mistakes. Use the bigger hole punch, or at least try to do it on paper first. See, I get so frustrated here. Try to do it on paper first so that you know whether the holes are going to eventually, not eventually, but you know that they're going to line up. And then what really frustrates me here is that these two grommets on the bottom are uneven. They're totally off. You can see one is lower than the other. But at this point, I persist and I put in the remainder of the black grommets. But you can see that it's not quite easy. And I certainly was overconfident in my skill ability to just bang this project out quickly. It really wasn't a long project. It probably took me a half an hour or 45 minutes with all of these additional issues that I had using the wrong punch size. And you don't necessarily need to buy the hole puncher. You could probably use any type of device to put a hole through, like the shish kebab skewer, for example, or even a pair of scissors. And here I just fold it over, and it doesn't really make too much of a mark, but I finally get them all in. And it seems to line up the way that I want to, but I am thinking about that hole on the bottom and how it is uneven, and I will think about that forever. So then I just get some journaling string out, which I think this is 1 millimeter maybe of string to string it up. And I did order, I think maybe 3 millimeter or 3 centimeter string just to use a bigger string. And I'll probably restring this when I get that, because this is a little thin and I'm worried that even with the knot, it's going to pull through where the holes are. But this is relatively easy. I go through the outside hole into the inside hole, and then you just tie it up with the string on the inside. And you don't want to tie it too tight because it will cause the bag to fold over, but also you don't want it to be too loose that it won't hold the journals in place. So I just did like a little double knot down here, and the excess I will use to be the closure for the journal. And it doesn't really matter if the knot on the outside slides through, because that can really move around. But the knot that matters is the one that is the closure for the journal. So if that one slides through, then obviously it won't hold your journal closed, which, I mean, you don't really have to put that center grommet in to have the closure. You could simply put a rubber band around the outside if you wanted to. And then I just knot this up to put through the center for the closure. And I'm struggling again because of the nails, but I will get there eventually. And I really, at this point, I'm like using this shish kebab skewer probably more than I should. But, you get your money's worth out of this for sure. You'd think you get like 100 for $1. So this was well worth it for this particular project, even though it really wasn't in the items list. I finally get the string through, make the knot, and then you'll see pretty soon that I'm going to have the final. And this string is fine. It works, but like I said, it is a little thin. So if you are going to pursue this project, you may wish to use a string that is a little bit thicker and maybe not have your nails clawed. I had a little episode of ADHD there where I noticed my pen was uncapped, so I had to go over and recap it. So I don't know if that applies to you, that sometimes you're in the middle of a project and you sort of get called away to look at something else that's on your desk, which is probably why it's better to have a clean desk. But I mean, what is the fun in that? All right, finally, I have it strung through and I'm just going to go around to make sure it fits. And it does. I probably could have given it a little bit more slack, but this is fine. Once the journal is in there, it won't fold it over like that. So then I go and get the journal that I want to put in here, which is a junk journal that we made at one of the journaling labs. And I thought that this would be the perfect one to put in here because once you have this outside journal, you can put all your scraps of paper for your junk journal in there. So you can kind of carry those scraps and things around with you, which I think is excellent so that you can do all of your junk journaling on the go. Then I just kind of like adjust these strings to make sure that it's going to fit. And it does. I put this back over the edge of the junk journal because once I start to put stuff in there, it'll get pretty thick and that'll help sort of keep it closed. I can add a second journal in here and you could probably add as many journals as you want. You would just have to do that jump rubber band method where you string like 2 together. So definitely you could get 4 in there as long as they're not too thick. And you could probably get one big thick notebook in there too. So now I'm just testing out the zipper to make sure it works. And I noticed that you really can't unzip it all the way unless it's open, which is fine. But if you're going to put stuff in there and you want something from the back, you would just have to unzip it all the way. And I put my scissors in the front, but the scissors that I put in the front of this bag were a little too sharp and the plastic material of the cover is not super heavy duty. So if you're going to put scissors in there, you might want to put scissors that have more of the rounded or like child-friendly tip. So here it is. I finally finished it. And as you can see, I struggled a lot, but I got it. Now I'm about to cut that off when I realize that if you open it up, you could easily slide a pen in there. And then, you could color that with paint, or you could put different color marker on it so that it's not white and it doesn't stand out. But it's a nice little added bonus pen holder. I mean, if you want to cut it off, cut it off. But I sort of liked the ability to just tuck my pen in there and tuck it inside of the journal. So thank God I finally got that done. And I moved on to another one to see if once I used the bigger punch, it would be easier. And it was. I used different color grommets for this one. And I could have put the grommets up a little bit higher on the top there because I felt like the string was a little bit short. But I think now that I've done it a couple times, I would probably be a little bit easier for me. I used silver grommets on this one because I thought it would look nice with the blue, and then I just used the black line too. But really you can use any kind of string that you want. And I did it even though I was a little bit overconfident in my ability to do this quickly. Eventually I got it done. And thankfully the pen bags that you use for the journal cover are not very expensive, and you could get a lot of them potentially if you wanted to do it and you made a mistake a couple of times. It's no big deal. And then you can always reuse them as just a regular journaling bag to put your supplies in. So in the span of a day, I made 2, a green one and a blue one, and I think they both turned out great. Let me know what you think. Follow along for more videos. Don't forget to press the like button and find us at our website. Take care.